All right, we're back. JuddzBudz, Budz, Brett Boeser. Deep pull.
Who?
I think he played like 10 games. I think he drafted. I think he was second round pick, maybe. He was like back in 2009, 2010, 2011 time range. I think he played like a handful of games. Anyways, as always, your host Spoke Z, joined by my good buddy, Mr. at State of Hoppy, plus Matteo, who nailed the music. Attaboy, Matteo. Hoppy, how you doing?
We're doing fucking incredible.
Oh, yeah.
Back by popular demand, Tourney Flow. Delicious IPA in honor of the greatest hockey tournament that exists. The Minnesota State Hockey Tournament kicks off this week, Wednesday. And again, my wife absolutely crushed it with this can art. Just a beautiful lay-in of the words Tourney and Flow into the Yager-esque mullet. And if you look hard enough, you may find inappropriate body part somewhere hidden on the background. But anyone that didn't know already, I'm going to be enjoying this, a delicious stout as well from our friends at Lupulin, because this week is Big Beer Week. 8 days of ridiculous. I think there's 56 total beers being released throughout the 8 days, all 10% or higher. Basically signing my death warrant. I'll probably be out there Wednesday afternoon into Wednesday evening. So if anyone else was considering going, if you make it out there, run into me. Happy to sit down, talk hockey, beer, or literally just sit there and enjoy good beer. But support Lupulin. You can get the 4-packs this year, not Crowler. 4 packs of 16 ounces, Tourney Flow, tap room only. Get up to Big Lake. But yeah, State Tourney's here. Let's fucking go.
Hell yeah.
And Hermantown's not in it. Let's go again. Sorry, Veach, if you're tuning in.
So it's next year. You know, Veach.
There's always next year.
I mean, like, technically, it's true. So,
says our mics are cutting out. I don't know. I've heard you fine so far. Everyone hit us up in the comments if our mics are still an issue, and well,
could be funny if we just didn't address it. It's like, yeah, none of them are working. We just keep going. Charlie Chaplin-esque fucking video. There you go. Mics are cutting out bad. Could be fun.
Huh.
No. That was just a hot take. Oh, and more people. That's not good. This is every other person.
Okay.
I can't handle this.
I like it.
All right. All right, we'll just say every word twice. And that would satisfy everyone. I mean, where do we? It's the most chaotic week for the insiders, even though it seems like I don't really know what to expect this year, to be honest with you. But trade deadline week, Wild have, I would say, probably already made their one big move, if you want to call it a big move. And it was actually, from what we talked about before, bringing back Gustav Nyquist. That was more than I thought they were going to do, to be honest with you. Like, I didn't think they would be able to go out and get anyone that could potentially fill in like a top 6 role in general, just like with roster size, cap space. And it is crazy how, like, by the hour they have to be tracking this shit with where they're at with like injuries, the cap, and like roster size plus Hartman got suspended. It's nuts this year specifically. We've talked about the injuries before, but like what it's done on an hourly basis to their salary cap is crazy. So like bringing Gustav Nyquist, who they ideally would have kept in the first place if the money had worked out, like again, more salary cap stuff back then. I'm a fan of the move.
Yeah. So we're skipping around on the outline, but for me, my big issue here is like they could have kept him. They could have found a way to make that work, and they should have prioritized making that work instead of some of the other deals that they made. And now we got him for a cost. And it's the most important asset the Minnesota Wild could possibly have, if I'm not mistaken. What was the return?
2026 second.
It was a second. Judd's greatest asset since joining the Minnesota Wild has been crushing every second. Has he had a bad second round pick?
Don't think so.
I mean, I guess Murat Nadinov because he's a bum and he's in Iowa, but that one will make people mad.
Yeah, no, that'll piss people off.
But let's start couple NHL things quick, Z. And I mean, the first half of this is going to be pretty Washington Capitals heavy. First, Ovi is precisely 10 goals shy of Gretzky at this point. It feels weird to say because like most people are like, oh, I don't want to be the goalie that, is remembered for this record. I think it would be poetic if it was Marc-Andre Fleury that he scored that goal to pass. Actually, maybe it'd be cooler if he scored on Fleury to tie it. I don't know, but like him and Fleury go a ways back. Like Fleury's legacy isn't going to be tarnished by giving up a record-breaking goal to Ovechkin. So I'm here for it. I'm going to be at the game. I would love to see Ovechkin tie or break the record. There's still a lot of work to be done before then because he's basically got to go a goal a game, which hasn't seemed crazy for him of late, but far from a lock. Oh, Trav, what up? All right. Maybe I'll see you there, man. You'll have to DM me, grab beers before the game or something. But it's going to be a fun game, dude. No matter what, no matter how you slice it.
The fact that Ovechkin last year was not the same Alexander Ovechkin that we are used to ever seeing, obviously. Then the playoffs was like another level of like, oh, fuck, like, is this actually about to be like a crazy steep decline? And nope. What he's doing right now is legitimately insane. And the fact that this is like I think this is the first season where like he sustained an injury that you'd put in the category of significant, like a broken bone that puts him out for more than like fucking 4 games. Mm-hmm. And he comes back and immediately is like, how about I score more than a goal per game? And I like, because at the start of the year, we're like, he'd have to go on a pretty like, he'd have to really bounce back hard to actually do this in Minnesota. The fact that right now, the way that he's performed since coming, especially like since the 4 Nations ended, like he is on track and he's doing what he needs to do to actually hit this in Minnesota is the best thing ever. I am obsessed with it. But like, again, the fact that like at the start of the year, it was like, he'd really have to like have a big time bounce back year, but like 50-50 whether like we're confident that he could potentially hit this in Minnesota. It's probably not going to happen, but like it's not completely out of the realm of possibility. And now with like 10 games out, he's playing. I think they just dropped the puck. Like if he just does what he's been doing like the last couple of weeks, he's gonna like potentially do it. That fucking rules. And like I'm so curious about like a goaltender's mindset about that. Because on one hand, it's like, as a competitor, I'm sure you're like, I want to be the guy that did not let him break. Like, he's coming into this game potentially either going to tie or break this record, but I will not let that happen. Or, like, is it the one time you get scored? Like, that's he passed Gretzky. Like, I don't even fucking care. Like, I'm sure it would depend. Depending on who you ask, which goalie. I feel like Flower, when he is in the net, he is that competitive. But like after, he's like, yeah, it's pretty fucking cool. Right. But like pretty cool. You know what I mean?
He'll be remembered forever if you're that goalie. And I gotta agree here with Flyer Voracek. Can you imagine if, let's say, Ovechkin breaks the record, Fleury fights, whether it's Ovechkin or like a Charlie Lindgren, and the Wild end up winning because Fleury's going to ice it with an empty net goal? Like, what would happen?
Well, he can fight the goalies. I think we all watched what Alexander Ovechkin did when he fought Svechnikov in the playoffs a couple of years ago.
Hang on.
That punch landed so fucking square. That motherfucker was asleep, like even before his legs gave out. It was insane. And I mean, he is just a mass. He is a fascinating specimen. Like, I don't want him punching Fleury in the face. That's all all this to say. I would love it if he didn't punch him in the face.
Sure.
Because like Ovechkin, he's scary. So like it would rock if like breaks record in Minnesota and then Fleury gets a goalie fight like same game. Yeah, I'm all in. That would be like, I don't know if I'd ever go. If I were you, if I was in the building for that, I probably would never go to a hockey game ever again. I'd be like, I'm gonna beat that. Nope, no chance. Imagine how fucking electric that building would be. Oh my god! Now I need it to happen. So
I am curious how many people will be there for Ovechkin versus like being there for the Wild. Like, obviously you're there because you want to see that game, but like, how many people are Capitals fans versus Wild fans, both in state and out of state? There's probably a lot of people that'll be traveling to follow the team down this stretch run. Like, I can't imagine if you're a diehard fan who wants to be there for that record-breaking goal, you're burning some money.
Dude, the amount, so I would imagine as long as he's wherever he is, like wherever they're playing, that he's potentially going to tie or break the record. Like obviously Gretzky's going to be traveling to those games. And I'm sure like a lot of NHL legends would be. Imagine TR's Tom Reed's post game. I'm sure they wouldn't stop by Tom Reed's, but that would be a electric post game. If all the people that show up at Tom Reed's, potentially that could be insane, because there's gonna be a ton of people, former NHL guys, in the building for that game. And I'm just gonna keep talking because it looks like Hoppy had to take a call here. But like, I desperately need him to do it in Minnesota. It would be super cool. And again, if Fleury also dropped the gloves and fought that game, that would be the greatest hockey game ever. I'd be all in.
All in.
And again, post game at TRs would be out of control.
Oh God, yeah. And now we got to talk about. Have you seen the video of what their pregame routine looks like for the Capitals?
Not this year's, but they've always had like a ridiculous, like the handshake line.
Yeah,
has been out of control fun for a very long time. It was really funny when Chara went there. And he did it too. I was like, I've never seen this side of this man before. This is crazy. It's like, I'm so sad right now. Like, it was so miserable the first time I saw him do it. I wanted to cry. I was like, this sucks.
Yeah. I don't know how long it's been going this year, but I literally just last week saw a TikTok video pop up where for one game, Chychrun walks in, like getting ready to go out for the game, and he has a headband on. And Ovi's like, whoa, what's this? You got a headband? Why? He's like, I don't know, just want to wear it. And then all of a sudden, Ovi just like starts dancing. He's like, bands that make a dance. Bands that make a dance.
I was wondering what that was on the outline.
Yeah. And essentially now, because of that one day that Chychrun wore a headband, and like, I mean, we've seen it. Chychrun's had a great year regardless, but now he is the like front and center headline for them getting ready for each game, because literally the second Chychrun joins the group, Ovi just starts going, bands and make a dance. And it's so good. I love it. I love it.
Oh man. That like the Washington like pregame in the tunnel before they go out there has always been like top-notch content. Like, it's crazy how it's like every single guy has one. And I remember when Brendan Dillon got traded there, he like did an interview after like the second game. He was like, I'll be honest, it was the most nervous I've ever been, was just in the tunnel before the game, trying to make sure that I had all the handshakes down. Because like I was here for like 10 minutes and I had to come up with something, apparently. It was like a lot of pressure on myself. It was pretty funny. But God, they just keep fucking rolling, dude. What a fucking season. Again, shout out me for saying they were going to be good. I'd had like, this isn't even like, it's not even fair for me. Like, yeah, I called this. Like, this is not even close to what I expected. I thought they like third spot or something, but like they are unfucking believable.
Well, that hand up, like I was very down on them coming into this year. And that's like, they were a very middle team for me, right? But if you told me at the beginning of the year that they were going to be one of the top teams, I would have been like, no, they won't, because they just made so many moves. All of the moves they made in isolation, I liked, but it's like, whoa, you guys did way too much.
And we talked to the same thing with like Nashville, where it's like, hey, like we went to positive with Nashville.
Yeah.
But like, how many times have we seen teams go out and make a million moves in the offseason? And it's just like, yeah, like I would like, if I was a fan of this team, if you told me that this player was coming here, I'd be all about it. But like in totality, like it's just so much chemistry to get right. So like they had to redo all 4 lines. But the one thing we did talk about too that we both were a big fan of was like Chychrun there and Jensen in Ottawa. Like that's worked out for both teams. Trade. Like Jensen's been sneaky, like one of the best pickups as far as defensemen go for any team around the league. Like he has really brought stability to that back end for Ottawa. He's obviously like a big reason that they're pushing for that playoff spot. The fucking wild card in the East is annoying now because I'm just like, I mean, we're not going to go with the Bruins, but like it's crazy how it's like one team that's right there in that wild card spot. They're like, all right, fine, we'll make the playoffs. And then like no one's consistently putting together like 4, 5, 6 wins. And it's just like, this has to be driving some of the GMs nuts. Like, are we in? Can we? Because I know Don Sweeney, like he did a press conference where he was like, the competitive part of me is like, I mean, we're right there. Like I haven't lost that. But then he was like, but we're going to sell. And we're like, oh, fuck, he's never actually said that out loud before. Let's go. And I was excited. I was happy about it because they fucking stink.
Yeah, there's so much we have to cover on that. But for the East, let's kind of break down like where the dividing lines are. And before we do that, who are you most right and most wrong about based on like your preseason predictions? Like hand up, the most wrong was definitely the Capitals. And I'm trying to think if there's any other ones that I was like outright wrong about. Like, did I have Pittsburgh higher in my rankings? Yeah, but was I confident? Fuck no. Detroit's doing better than I thought. I'm very wrong on Detroit. But where I'd say I was very right would be Ottawa and New York, who are like neck and neck right now, but everyone else was very down on Ottawa and very high on the Rangers. And they're both falling pretty much where I would have indicated. What about you? Like, who are the teams that you were like very right and very wrong about?
I think is in the East anyways.
Yeah.
Detroit. And at the same time, I watched them play, and I'm like, I don't think I was that fucking wrong. It's just this fucking Eastern Conference stinks. Like, these guys are all fucking dog shit. I mean, like, I wasn't excited about, like, the Rangers offseason, but I thought they would still be a top 3 team in the Metro.
Well, but that's because of the Capitals, right?
Right. And Columbus.
But Columbus isn't top 3.
Well, I know, but like they're firmly ahead of.
Let's be clear. We didn't say that they would be a playoff team. We both liked how frisky the Columbus Blue Jackets could be, given what happened with Gaudreau, given Dean Evison going in to be the coach. Like, still though, this is awesome for them. Like, who isn't pulling for the Blue Jackets besides Detroit Red Wings fans?
Right. But as far as like any of the takes I had that I was like firm on and like aggressive about, it was Detroit.
Yeah.
And I absolutely, I don't even want them to again, because like I would rather see Ottawa get in. And I really fucking want Columbus in. But I think Detroit was a team that I was like, these guys fucking stink. And I hate their offseason. And here they are sitting at the fucking second wild card spot. Again, they got a game in hand on Ottawa. And Ottawa's unfortunately playing Washington tonight, but they're obviously plenty of time. And we'll see what happens as far as moves go. But like, I was very adamant about Detroit, like potentially not even sniffing the playoffs. And here we are.
I honestly thought there was a decent chance that the Red Wings would be the worst team in the Atlantic.
Right.
And Montreal has like defended that for me. Montreal has been more competitive than I think a lot would have thought, but still Detroit's absolutely proven me wrong so far. Where do we see then, like, who's for sure in? Do you draw the line for, let's just say, the Atlantic? Toronto and Florida seem fairly safe, right? Where does Tampa fall on
They're
that line?
firmly in. I think they are so far ahead of, like, as far as the Atlantic, Detroit, Ottawa, Boston, Montreal, like they are in Buffalo. Oh my God. Jesus Christ. Yeah. It's insane. Like, it's fucking poor franchise. But I think they are like 2 notches above every other team in the Atlantic, like behind them anyways. And obviously Toronto and Florida.
Okay. Yeah. So that's the hard line. Who in the Atlantic is for sure out besides Buffalo?
I would just put Boston, Montreal other than Buffalo. Because again, like the 3 teams right now along the only Metro team that's in that 2-3 points for the playoffs is the Rangers, and I don't even know what to make of that fucking team anymore. I just like like they have enough good players that if you told me that they rattle off a couple wins and then leap Ottawa, Detroit, or Columbus and get in that second wild card spot, I'm like, yeah, that seems that's very logical. But Boston firm out, like they're dead on points with the Rangers and Ottawa. They played 2 more games than the Rangers. They played 3 more than Ottawa, and they're going to be selling. How many guys they're gonna be selling on, I don't know, but like where they need to not make the playoffs, because getting in and getting absolutely slaughtered in the first round is significantly worse. And they have their assets are really weird. They could, I still feel like they could get a lot as far as quantity, but like quality is somewhere. Like they could get another couple picks that they've never had. Like they haven't picked twice in the first round or twice in the second round in a long time. They might have a couple pieces that can get them
once in the first. Because
at this point, yeah, I don't even care, because like at this point, it's just like I would still rather fucking get a fucking couple
3 in a row.
2026 would be great. Which we'll have to discuss that shortly. But yeah. But Boston has enough to make it interesting. Like they have enough pieces that they could get. Like, remember when Washington like half sold last year? Like what they got, like they got a couple really nice pieces, like as far as draft picks, but they also just got a ton. Like they got a lot. So it's the quantity versus the quality, or quantity versus quality thing, as far as like how many assets you can bring in. It'll just be interesting to see what the Bruins actually want, because they're not going to do a full rebuild. They don't have to. They have a couple pillars that should make them, like they have the foundation pieces. Like the up front, they've got David Pastrnak on. They have Charlie McAvoy. Hampus Lindholm being out pretty much all year has been like a miserable thing for them. You have Jeremy Swayman in that, who like start of the year horrific, but since then he's been pretty good. And
which you kind of knew that was going to happen, right?
Right. So they have like the foundational pieces that they need. It's just like it's the same thing when they used to just have Marchand, Pastrnak, Bergeron online and then hope someone else could score once every fucking 5 games somewhere else. But they have the foundational pieces. They don't have to do like a full-on rebuild, but we'll see what happens. But they're out. They're out.
Where would the best landing spot be for Brad Marchand?
Dude, part of me was like, and I hate this fucking hockey team, so I don't know if I would actually want it to, but they do need to bolster, I think, and he's gonna go somewhere where he probably isn't gonna be a first line guy anyways. Reunite him with Bruce Cassidy in Vegas, get some more scoring depth, and he can be a fucking prick on the ice every single game. And him and Bruce Cassidy are very they're actually like close friends. So that was always weird. But reunite him in Vegas with Butchie.
I'm embarrassed I never even considered that, and I love and hate it for so many reasons.
Yeah.
Damn. The one that came up today, just from various podcast listening, send him to Columbus.
That'd be another fun one, dude. I love that too. I don't think they're gonna move him. I don't think he has. I mean, he's said it a million times. Like, no, I want to be a lifelong Bruin.
Yeah.
So I don't think they'll actually do it. Plus, again, he's gonna be hurt past the deadline. I mean, even if he wanted to move, that wouldn't stop them. Like same thing with Trent Frederick too. He's gonna get moved at some point here, but
yeah.
But yeah,
that one's probably not fun for you.
Yeah, I think it realistically is a 50-50 on Marchand, but like I would still be very surprised if he gave them the green light to get traded.
That's fair. Let's talk West then. Z. Teams that are like firmly in, I'd say 4.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed? Top 2 in each division, or do you see it differently? I actually have an asterisk that I'll put on a 5th one.
Yeah, well, definitely top 2 in each division.
The other one for me is Colorado. The 5th asterisk. They're like, based on points, they still seem fairly safe and they're climbing. And I don't see a world where the Wild are anything other than a wild card, sadly.
Mm-hmm. But I still see them. I still think they're firmly in, though.
You think they're firmly in? You don't think that the Wild could spiral out and not make the playoffs?
Nope.
Ooh.
Well, could, sure, but
I'm not saying like
I'm confident in them not doing that.
If I have to pick one or the other, I'm saying they're in, but like I'm not going to sit here and confidently say it.
I'm going to say they're confidently in. So yeah.
What about LA?
LA is an interesting one because I think they are firmly in. When I look at Calgary and Vancouver, like Vancouver's a shit show right now.
Yep.
Calgary's been it's been impressive that they've just they started off really hot, obviously, and have just stayed either in the hunt or in a playoff spot pretty much all year long. I still don't see them climbing to take over that 3rd spot over LA. And I mean, and then that division, it's like Anaheim, no. Seattle, no. San Jose, no. I'm very curious to see what they do at the deadline. There's a report today that they're one of the teams, again, not to keep bringing up the fucking Boston Bruins, but like they're sniffing around Brandon Carlo. They want to know what they were like interested in him. So it looks like they're potentially thinking about like making a push to make the playoffs and add. And that would be a pretty significant piece. So like it sounds like they're planning on either seeing if they can catch LA or at least staying in that wild card spot. It's weird. Like I shouldn't feel as like confident about this as I am, but like I think if it's between them and Vancouver, I'm picking Calgary. Like if it's those two teams that are going to be neck and neck for that last spot, which right now that's what it is. With how much of a shit show Vancouver's been, and like I just have no faith in that hockey team right now. And like Quinn Hughes, it's 50-50 on his health again.
Yeah.
Then it's just like the vibes are terrible. Like nothing feels good about Vancouver right now.
They're very bad.
And I'm at the point where I feel bad for Pettersson.
But I'll see your Western Canada and I'll raise you the Clubbers. They've been playing a lot better lately. They're playing good hockey at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
But they've disappointed compared to what I expected from them this year so far.
Yeah.
And I think we both were kind of on the same page for a lot of these picks, like very right and very wrong on several.
Yeah, weird.
Vancouver, dude, couldn't have been more wrong. I actually thought they had a chance to win the division again. And apparently Miller and Pettersson couldn't get along. It's tough. Everyone was wrong on Nashville, but like we weren't like everyone else saying that they were going to win the division.
I think I put them 2, and I was like, I'm mad at myself for doing this.
Yeah, I think I put them 3, but was like unsure. Like they could have fallen anywhere from 2 to 4 for me.
Yeah.
And I was wrong about Winnipeg, but I wasn't very like strong on my stance. It was more like, I don't know how the middle of this division is going to shake out. Turns out they're not the middle at all. So very wrong again. But like, I wasn't very like, they were a team that I could always see kind of doing what they're doing, unlike the Capitals, where I never saw it coming.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's tough. And Matteo brought it up earlier, but back to the Capitals. How about Pierre-Luc Dubois?
It had to have been something where he gets moved there, and he's like, if I fuck this up. Like,
so my question is it real? Because it's pretty easy to go in and have Ovi buzzing, chasing down Gretzky. The team couldn't be playing better. Like, next year, if they struggle out the gate, like, does he just disappear?
I mean, that's
like you can't call the trade a win based on this season. It looks great right now, but like, there's a lot of time left on this deal.
Yeah, and like, I mean, who does he play with the most? I think it's been Wilson and McMichael. Like, and I mean, at 5v5, his numbers are good. Like, he's defending well too. Like, it's weird thinking of like players like this. It's just crazy thinking about the pedigree before.
Yeah.
And it was like the one shift in Columbus right before he got moved has permanent, and I mean, his performances since, but like, that was like, it's crazy. There's a specific shift that everyone was like, fuck this guy, he sucks. And it like, he's been moved a couple times since then. What was he, 3rd overall to Columbus? I mean, I'm happy for the guy. He's like playing really well again. Like, is he like lighting up the score sheet? No, but he's a factor at both ends of the ice. He's super fucking physical when he wants to be. Like, we've seen him in the past when he felt like being that premier power forward. He was able to do that, and like, he can score, he hits, he fight. Like, he does a little bit of everything, and he did have that legit like scoring touch, like that X factor scoring touch early in his career, or like showed flashes of it. And I mean, what was the trade? Was it him for Kemper? Not
More
Kemper. Not Kemper. Or was it Kemper?
Yeah, it was Kemper.
Like, I think at that point they were like, yeah, sure. Like, I mean,
it's just a contract, dude. The contract is the only deterrent. And hey, if he keeps playing like this, great. It's a good deal. But I'm far from saying that this is the player he is just because he's doing it in the year that Capitals are torching. Like, it's easy to get up and play for that.
Yeah, I think where I land. Oh, it's 2-0 Washington already. There you go. And he scored the second goal, of course. Yeah, it's got 15 now.
All right, 9 to go.
You have 50 points in 61 games. I mean, like,
wait, I think who's he? You say
Dubois.
Oh, I thought you meant Ovi.
No.
I don't care if Dubois scores.
Well, yeah, that's what we're talking about. But like, with how good he is, like, I'm more confident in him doing this again next year versus like completely crashing out and like putting up 10 goals, 11 assists, dash 30, like 80 pims, all misconducts, no fights. Like, because this for him, like, this was early in his career numbers. Like, this was like what he was able to do when he was super young. So, I mean, I'm confident in him, like, continuing to be a good player for them moving forward. And I would be surprised if he did totally just like revert back to like the borderline unplayable player that he was in LA.
Fair. Well, now that we've kind of established and assessed kind of some of the teams that are in and out of trade talks, start by breaking down the trades that have happened recently, but then we can kind of get into some of the hypotheticals, things you'd want to see, things like anyone that's watching right now, like, let us know across the league or Wild, like, what trades you would love to see. We'll get into it if there's good ones. Matteo will tag them and throw up the ones that warrant discussion. But what do you make of Seth Jones to Florida?
So, like, my initial reaction when I saw that trade I think was pretty much a trigger about anything Seth Jones related. When you really break it down, first of all, Florida has the ability with the way that they play, just like the players we've seen them acquire recently, like their style actually does lend itself quite well to someone like Seth Jones, where like a big issue with his play overall, outside of just the contract, but the actual hockey of it all, is like the mobility defending against the rush. And it's like probably not going to drastically improve as he's like 30 now. Florida only plays like they don't play north-south. They're like north 95% of the time. And when you factor in the fact, like, first of all, he is, especially with the cap going up on the contract side of things, like a $7 million defenseman with the cap going up in like 2 or 3 years, that's going to be like second pair money. And when you can also consider the fact he's probably going to be playing, maybe he starts with like a guy like Mika, but at some point he's going to be playing with Forsling. And like their style of play, that's just nonstop, all out skating forward hockey. Like they have the puck pretty much the entire fucking game. He's going to be able to jump on their power play, their first power play unit, play a lot of offensive minutes. Like I actually have a funny feeling this is going to work out very well for Florida. Again, when you consider the caps going up, they're paying him $7. Like that's going to be huge for them. The risky part of it is the Spencer Knight thing more than anything for me, where it's like Bobrovsky's, how old is he now? Like
old.
Yeah.
He's got 1 year after this, doesn't he?
Something like that, I think, right? I'm trying to think, what was that? Because it was the same draft year they signed him. It was Spencer Knight got drafted and they signed fucking Bob. That's the part to me that I'm like, there's risk there, but at the same time, I do think they're going to get plenty of bang for their buck here. And like for them, they've got a ton of young talent already, as is. And when you consider the fact a lot of the forwards that they have, they handle a ton of that defensive prowess anyways too. Like especially go back the other way, like Barkov, Luosterainen, Lundell. Like Reinhardt is a ridiculously good defensive forward who also could score fucking 50 a year. He's unbelievable. Sam Bennett, like he's not like he's gonna have to be a number one D man for them. Their style of play really lends itself to his game where it's at right now. And like he's not going to be like defending as often as he or as much as he had to be in Chicago against every single team's top pair or top line. So I actually think it's going to probably, again, my initial reaction was like, what the fuck are you doing? And then when with context, I think it's actually a pretty good move. Again, giving up Spencer Knight when like right now you have Bob and Dreger. The one thing that could get crazy, it would be kind of funny. They just put Kachuk on LTIR. They cleared enough space. Go out and fucking get John Gibson. And let's get nuts.
So it's not where I thought you were going to go with that, but I'm intrigued.
But yeah, no, again, the risk is like they don't have a top goalie prospect in their pool right now. I think for them, the first round picks, whatever.
Yeah.
But like Spencer Knight has probably been this year, he's been better than Bob. Like he's put up since coming back, he's put up good numbers, obviously.
Yeah.
And if you're Chicago, like you take that first round pick. Yes, you're retaining for 5 years, but at the same time, like right now, you don't give a fuck about that. Yeah. And you bring in Spencer Knight again. Like they've got like I think maybe 1 or 2 decent goalie prospects in their pool that like could potentially eventually become like NHL goaltenders. But like Spencer Knight, potential first goalie, like I think it works out pretty well for both of them. So we'll see what happens. But again, like Florida just does this with defensemen. Like this is just what they do.
So I'm going to go threefold on this. Where do you want me to start? Do you want me to start Florida, Blackhawks, or Selfish?
Love Selfish.
Why the fuck couldn't this have been the trade that Dubas made to get Karlsson out?
I was listening to someone talk. They were like, I was really hoping Karlsson was going to end up in Florida.
It'd be way more fun to have him in Florida, and I would absolutely take this return. Like, that'd be great. I would be thrilled. All right, so moving off the selfish, for the Panthers, like end of the day, impact to the roster, I like the deal. Like I think Seth Jones makes sense for the points you made, right? Like he's coming in with salary retained. He's gonna, as the cap goes up, like it's a very reasonable price for a guy like him. Right now, he's their 3. I wonder what this means though, long term. Like this means that one of, if not both, looking at Sam Bennett and Aaron Ekblad, like both or at least one of them are for sure out based on that money. Mm-hmm. Now, I think Bennett was going to be gone regardless because the market's going to dictate it, but it's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out after this year. But for this year, I think it's a great move. I think they're going to be in a great spot going to the playoffs, and no one's going to want to go up against him as long as Bob's on top of his game. Blackhawks. Bravo, Kyle Davidson. I really thought that he was going to get worked over in this deal, especially with how vocal like Seth Jones has been in the media. Like he got a great return here. I think this is an incredible return, getting rid of Seth Jones, an asset that does not want to be there, paid way too much, just across the league, right? I think that's incredible. My question for the Blackhawks now, Z, are they the team that started the rebuild before the Sharks, but now they are basically swimming in the Sharks' wake and trying to copy their moves? Like, both are selling off, which makes sense. They're both battling for first overall. And the Sharks went and got their future goalie. Blackhawks went and got their future goalie. Like, do we need to just watch the Sharks for whatever their next move is and be like, all right, Blackhawks are going to do that like 3 to 6 months later? Is that how this works?
Copy paste.
Yeah. Copy paste.
Just whenever the Sharks make a trade and the trade call goes into the league, they also randomly get a text from the Blackhawks, us too, but like in 6 months, like same thing. Just reserve this one. Is this good? Like, this is legal? Cool.
Like, is it like it's like the senior who's cheating off the sophomore?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that's basically what it is for me. And I am curious because I feel like it could be so much fun if both the Sharks and Blackhawks made a big splash this summer. Can you imagine the Sharks adding Rantanen and the Blackhawks adding Marner? Incredible fits.
Mm-hmm. It'd be insane.
I think it'd be a lot of fun. Hey, if they both want to break the bank, that's how. But let's see. I feel like I had. The one thing I had to address just based on you bringing up a guy like Reinhart. Do we need to be locked and loaded for whatever like notable piece the Sabres trade to a contender and be like, they're winning the cup this year?
I know, literally.
Happened with Reinhart, happened with Eichel. I'm sure it's happened with several before them. Like, they're the kingmakers.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to be watching that personally. That's going to be probably my top thing to follow in this trade deadline. But okay, we got through the Chicago-Florida trade. Fun.
Chicago is going to be one of those teams this summer that's going to be fascinating to watch because, like, they can not do another year of this shit. And, like...
But they're going to. How will they avoid that? How can they do enough of a roster overhaul to fix it?
I mean, that's why I'm saying, like, in the offseason, it's going to be fascinating to watch. I wish I should have pulled up Puckpedia already, but yeah, no, it's just like, obviously they're going to have a couple of those recent draft picks coming into someone like I'm curious to see what like a Lev Shunov looks like next year, like in the NHL, assuming he's here.
Leave Helen Moore, please leave them alone.
Yeah.
And I mean, neither of them are ready, but
we'll see what happens. Like, because I mean, they're gonna have like it's crazy too. They need to sell, obviously.
Yeah.
When you look at who they have that they would potentially be like selling on, and it's like with how much he's produced this year, you might get
Donato.
More than you probably should for Ryan Donato. Like,
I liked him in Minnesota. Everyone hated him and wanted him gone. I loved him.
Yeah. But like, I think whatever they are able to move before the trade deadline, this, like, whatever they ask for in return will really, like, give us an idea of what they're going to do in the offseason. Like, is it going to be picks? Because at this point, they probably want something that they like, a young player or someone that can help them soon. But, like, I mean, it is a shit show.
They have 4 firsts between this year and next year. Like,
hell yeah.
Sorry, like, I don't think they want any more futures. I think if anything, they're going to parlay futures to bring something in now that's younger.
And, like, that's the thing. It's like, for who?
I don't know. That's going to be the real question. But let's keep it moving along. Colorado Avalanche took a swing here, trading with the horrible New York Rangers. Colorado trades Parssinen, Haan, 2nd in 2025 and a 4th in 2025 to receive from the Rangers Lindgren, Vesey, and Kempf. What do you think?
Well, I don't know what Colorado was. I mean, did they give up anything crazy? No. Probably would have kept the picks. Ryan Lindgren, is he going to be able to, like, walk by playoff time? I don't even say that disrespect. I say that respectfully. The amount of abuse that man's body has taken. Like, I mean, he gets hit.
He's dude, straight up, he's the first Gopher that I've loved as a Gopher. And I fucking hate him as an NHL player because he's with the Rangers and doing what he does. But, like, now he goes to Colorado and he's going to do that. Like, he is a piece of shit. And I mean that as a compliment.
So, like, it's a bit confusing for me because, like, and also when you look at how they play, the speed they play at, I'm like, okay, you bring in Lindgren, Vesey, and I mean, like, the prospect Kempf. I mean, Vesey having a nice year, filling a role. I mean, he's a talented player, but, like, I looked at that trade and I was like, what? For what? Like, for why? Like, I don't know what this really bolsters for them. I can't tell if they've decided, like, I keep looking at what they've done this year. And it's like, is this them saying, like, yeah, this year isn't going as swimmingly as we hope, but we have too many guys absolutely popping off, aka just like McKinnon, McCarr, who are just, like, having such a good year that we can't do nothing, but we're going to bring in pieces that could potentially help us. Again, I really like the fact that they at least got Nyquist in that Rantanen trade. He's been really fucking good for them, and it looks pretty good right now, dude. But I looked at, like, the return for both teams, and I was like, what? I was like, at least the Rangers got some picks. Like, Parssinen showed flashes. Haan can be a 6'7" guy, probably. I don't know. But, like, I looked at what Colorado did. I was like, I don't really understand what they thought they were getting out of this. I mean, we'll see what happens with someone like Middlesex who just re-signed there this past offseason or whatever. But, I mean, I don't really know how much it really bolsters that lineup. I mean, I'm guessing they're hoping that, like, VC can give them some bottom 6 scoring touch. But I thought it was a really weird trade in totality. Like, I was like, what? I never would have ever imagined that these players would be in one trade.
Yeah.
Like, unless 3 teams were involved. It's crazy. But yeah, Colorado for me, I was like, I don't know about that one. Like, stop moving picks probably.
Yeah, unless they just have no faith in their scouting staff. They're like, yeah, fuck it. But good players we've heard of. All right. Well, that's it for current deals. Again, throw in your comments. We'll circle back to them at the end here. If there's specific players or actual, like, trade constructs that you have across the league, like, we're all for it. If Matteo approves it, he'll throw it up on the screen and we'll discuss. But for now, let's jump into the Minnesota Wild. Wild looked like absolute shit across their 3-game losing streak. And then they win a barn burner, 1-0. Against the Boston Bruins. My first question to you is, do you think Pete Blackburn will be okay?
Oh, boy. No. That
okay.
that Bruins Wild game on Sunday afternoon may end up in my own personal Hall of Fame worst hockey games of all time. The only exciting thing was that Kastelic-Foligno fight. My God, like they threw a couple bombs, and like I was like, all right, let's see what this does for this game. And answer was jack shit. There were a couple other like pushing, like there was a couple scrums, if you want to call them that. One of the most low event hockey games. Like it was painful to actually sit there and watch it. But considering how bad Minnesota looked in those 3 losses before, getting a shutout is always gonna give you a little bit of a boost, obviously. And just getting a win at home is great. So keeping a shutout, home win, 2 huge positives. But my God, that fucking hockey game, like it was border. I mean, it should have been unwatchable. I mean, for anyone who's not like watching almost every Bruins or Wild game, like I can't imagine keeping that hockey game on for more than like the first 15 minutes. Dude, they went 7.5 minutes off the jump with no whistle. There was like 2 shots on goal. I mean, it was unbelievable. I could not. I was so angry. I was like just getting mad. I was like, this sucks. I was like, why am I doing this to myself? I have to do it. So like, I felt like we all should have got paid for watching that game because that was insane. But I was just dying laughing. I was like 7.5 minutes off the opening phase off, no stoppages, 2 shots on goal. This is ridiculous. But again, if you're Minnesota, shutout's huge, home win, huge. So like you take that and run with it.
I also feel like Boston's kind of owned them of late. So good, given that you're missing a lot of guys.
That's another thing too, right? Like,
yeah, I think it says a lot about the state of both teams, though, if we're being completely honest. We already talked about the Nyquist trade. Basically, we're both happy he's back. Hate that Judd's greatest asset, being a 2nd-round pick, was sent out. And I personally wish they would have just made it work to keep him first time around, because I think he would have stayed, but I don't. Every indication I've gotten is that they didn't even try. So at least Billy corrected his own work. I don't know. But
I do like the move, honestly. Like, again, I didn't think they would be able to bring in
not a second.
Not a second. How do you think that text went? Hey,
man.
I
don't know. I don't think the text happened. I think Judd's like, Billy, what the fuck? No response. Unread. Read, unreplied.
I'll be on the Cape. This number is no longer in service.
so the real question here is Billy done, right? Like the Brocks and the Dylans seem to be at the top of everyone's mind, right? We got Brock Nelson, Brock Boeser, Dylan Cozens, Dylan Larkin, which Larkin's not happening, guys, but I would love it if it did. Can we do anything at this point? Because it sounds like every indication is both Ek and Kaprizov are going to avoid LTIR through the end of the season. So kind of stuck with what we got, unless it's literally like moving guys out that we don't want anymore, or like actual hockey trades, which I don't know how one of those lines up and gets consummated. That's probably more of a summer thing if we're talking real hockey trades, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, as far as like any notable moves, I would be shocked if they pulled something off, because like I think Billy even said, he's like, dude, it's money in, money out at this. Like we literally like by dollar, like it is like, it's crazy how tight the cap's been from the jump this year. So again, I was impressed that they even brought in someone like Nyquist, where it's fascinating. Like he popped off last year in Nashville, put up 70 whatever points. And if you look at like his just performance as far as like the underlying numbers go, he hasn't really dipped at all. It's just the finishing and being in Nashville has been like negative $1 million. So like it's just been obviously a year from hell. And like you said, looked so fucking good the first time he was here. And obviously just like never worked out to keep him. But we'll see what happens if they want to just do a pure rental. But There you go.
That's also not the guy that fans wanted from Nashville. They wanted to bring back Minnesota Wild legend Ryan O'Reilly. R.I.P. in peace. One unfortunate Tim Hortons. But let's get into then some trade hypotheticals that were submitted to Joe Smith, which it is a very lengthy list of submissions. He indicated to me that some fans may be a little bit unhinged. We won't dive too deep into that, but Matteo has thrown together 5 of the ones that at least seemed reasonable or most realistic and wants us to go through like who wins the trade and would we take it for the Wild, essentially. So first one here, brought to you by Lupulin. Again, I have gotten into the Barrel God, which when we talk about 10% and higher, this one's 15.6%. I'm basically drinking straight motor oil, and it is fucking delicious for those who are curious. Again, anyone that wants to go up to Lupulin, either late afternoon or early evening on Wednesday this week, hit me up in the DMs. Would love to grab a beer with you guys if you happen to make it up that way. But Z, first mock trade that was submitted to Joe Smith, Matteo sniffed out, throw up here for us. Wild send Riley Haight and a 2027 third to receive Brock Nelson from the New York Islanders.
I mean, I don't want to do that again. Like, is in the grand scheme of things, like, yes, Riley Haight, he's been outstanding since they drafted him. 2027 thirds, whatever. Brock Nelson, we've talked about how old he is already. And I mean, I would rather keep one of your top prospects. I mean, and also at the same time, like, are you going to extend Nelson? I would imagine if you give up anything, the plans to extend him. I'd be curious to know if like the Islanders would even say yes to it in the first place. They probably, if they do lose Nelson, I'm sure they're going to try to really jack up that price. I'm curious to know like what the opinion of Riley Haight is around the league anyways. Like, that's the one thing I can never tell.
But like, he's the one person for me, especially in our prospect pool. How does anyone know what he is?
Right.
He was boxed out, of course, the last year where he can't play college hockey. He's technically too young to play in Iowa, which like is bullshit based on some of the things that have transpired in his career. And then he goes back to WHL and weird, like, yeah, he basically does what he did before, slightly below pace, but it's like, what more can the guy prove in the WHL? Right? So I have no idea what his value would be perceived as league-wide. I can tell you, first and foremost, he is one of my favorite prospects, and I get very weirdly obsessed with certain players. People have seen it. Sometimes I'm very right. Sometimes I'm very wrong, or Bill Guerin decides I'm very wrong. R.I.P. in peace, Kalen Addison. But I love Riley Haight. I'm excited to see what he can do in Iowa next year because I think that kid's going to come in and fucking torch.
Mm-hmm.
But is this like a fair trade if there's an extension in the works and it's not going to be more than 3 or 4 years for Brock Nelson? Sure, it's reasonable. Do I want it to happen? No.
Yeah, and I mean, I would imagine as far as the draft pick goes, New York's going to be like...
Right. Hang on. Cosgrove nailed it. He's not getting traded until I buy his jersey.
Right.
That's how it works. Although, hang on, though. We still have Rossi. No one knows.
You knock on something.
I've had that Rossi jersey for so long.
I know, but we try not to say it, though.
Hitlick and Addison happened a lot quicker.
True.
So I think I'm safe-ish, but yeah, it's scary.
I do imagine, now that I look at it too, like, I don't think New York would do it. Like, I don't think they would go for a 2027. Like, if you were talking, they probably want they probably want 2 picks. If you're doing 2027 third, they would want one in 2025 or 2026 too. But I mean, again, like, for me, the big thing is just like, he's 33 now. He's going to be 34 by the time the season starts next year. You really, even with the cap going up, is this the center you want to go like try to lock in on a couple years? And would he take a 3-year deal? I don't know. Like he's gonna want more.
I'd be okay
years.
with 4. If he wants 5, I'm out.
Right. So
4 I can stomach, especially depending on what the AAV is. But I don't know, dude. Like he feels. It's weird. He's a redundancy, but at the same time, he's a redundancy for a guy that gets hurt all the fucking time in Joel Eriksson-Ek. So if he wants to come back for a reasonable contract, I would love to have him here this summer. I don't want him right now. Like the reason that you'd bring in a Brock Nelson is if Ek is out long term, like through the regular season and potentially into the postseason. I understand going and getting a Brock Nelson who you might want to extend because he replaces Ek. But if Ek's coming back, no, thank you.
All right, to be honest, even then, I would probably rather the rental.
Agreed, but I'm not giving up Riley Haight for a rental.
Right, for a rental.
At least not for this rental. If you're giving up Riley Haight for Rantanen to round out the season, okay, I'm in.
Only if a first also comes back. Okay, Rantanen and a first round pick.
Nope. I want a second. I want to replace the second we lost.
Point. I should have thought of that. That's my bad.
Idiot. Why would you want a first? That's so dumb.
Are you idiots?
All right, Matteo, what do we got next? Oh, all right. So mock trade proposal number 2. Liam Ogren, Frederick Gaudreau, son of Dean Evison, and a 2025 second, which means we have no pick through the first 3 this year. Terrifies me. For Jared McCann from the Seattle Kraken. Z, what say you?
That's in the face. It's not like like McCann's one of those guys. I'm curious to see what happens with this deadline because I think the for the pick, they're gonna want at least a first round pick for him. Just how ridiculously good he is. Like his shooting percentage.
Does Ogren not count as a first?
I'd be curious to know what teams around the league think, honestly.
I would think he's satisfied. Him in a second gets you way more than that first you're talking about. That's just my opinion, but it's a reasonable point to bring up. Yeah.
I think McCann signed for another couple of years at God, what's he making? I literally looked at his contract.
He's a 5x5.
5.5. It was 5.5.
5.5. Okay.
For another couple of years, right? Beyond.
It's gotta be for at least 2 or 3 more years. I'll find it.
Yeah. Well, obviously we cannot go 2 years in a row with no second round pick. So that's, we can't.
Well, especially this year. Also, you can't give up the 2025 second because you already gave up the 2025 first and third. Judd will not stand for this. Although maybe it's job security to be like, oh, okay, you guys want to punt on this year? Sure. See how that does for you.
Yeah.
See if you end up in Scott Wheeler's top 10 prospect pools. You son of a bitch. And no, it's $5 million, not 5.5.
I like McCann. I think he could potentially get them a huge haul. The combination of the second round pick and Ogren, I don't love at the same time when you look at how many scoring center/wings that we already have in Minnesota prospect pool. It's not like the craziest thing in the world. And I mean, we've heard Ogren floated in trade rumors before anyways. Like as far as a top prospect that you could go out and use to go get a big piece or whatever, we've seen Ogren's been one of those prospects that we've seen floated there before.
I thought McCann had 3 more years. He has 2 more after this one because straight up to your point, scoring wingers, anyone who thinks McCann is actually a center is wrong.
That's the other part.
In Pittsburgh, he is not a center. Can he play it? Sure. You're bringing him in to be a top 6 winger, and he would excel at it, but he's 28. He's got, beyond this season, 2 more years. I'd be way happier if it was 3 because I don't know what happens after that deal, but Jared McCann gives you an instant jolt. He is your second best winger behind third best winger if Kaprizov and Boldy are both healthy. He is a great player. I love Jared McCann. I still curse Ron Hextall for sending him out. So many things he did that pissed me off, but that one pissed me off the most. And anyone that hasn't listened, go check out the Nick Bugstead interview on Fellowship of the Rink. He speaks very fondly of Jared McCann. So go check it out. But I'd be okay. I'd be okay with this deal. I'm probably, now that I see that there's only 2 more years of McCann, I'd probably rather have the young Ogren and see how he develops personally. But if this is the move Guerin made, I'm not sitting here like freaking out. I'm accepting it. I'd rather keep Ogren.
Mm-hmm.
Fair?
Yeah, and I think it's like a fair trade too, but
it's reasonable. It's reasonable.
Yeah.
All right, Matteo, what do we got next? Oh, baby. All right, we have Riley Haight, Carson Lambos, yet again the 2025 second for Dylan Cozens. Money definitely doesn't work here, so let's ignore that fact. Z, if the money worked, do you take this trade?
I would imagine Buffalo says no.
I imagine Buffalo says, fuck yourself.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Like I take this trade immediately. Yeah, I love Riley Haight. I love Carson Lambos. I love second round picks for Judd. I'm doing this every fucking time. I think Dylan Cozens is an absolute stud. I don't care what he's done this season. Like, he is a young,
where he's that guy wherever he goes, wherever if
Buffalo.
he gets moved, wherever he goes.
And I mean, Cosgrove, it's fair. Like, this year's been bad for him, but like, I'm sorry, Dylan Cozens fucking rocks. My dear friend Joey, living out in Wyoming, he is literally, when people say diehard fan, like, he literally dies every time he watches the Buffalo Sabres. He would cry at this trade proposal. I'm sorry, dude. Yeah, so this one's not happening. Buffalo would tell us to go straight to hell, but would I take it? Fuck yeah. And
yeah,
that's
so like, what do you think?
love every piece we're giving up. I love all three. So
yeah. So like, another way to look at it though, like, if Buffalo is going to make this work, I would imagine they swap a different prospect in for Lambos, and they would want that 2026 first round pick.
Which one though? Because like, I don't want to give up Juracek. I love him.
Yeah, no, that's not happening.
Also, who's the other prospect?
That's the thing. I don't know. Look, I mean, do they even want?
You're gonna give up Urov? Don't think so.
Right. No.
I mean, let's go through the list. Right? It's, you're not giving up Boehm. You're not giving up Wallstedt. You're not giving up Juracek. You're not giving up Urov. Haight's the next guy, isn't he?
Oh yeah, no. I mean, Haight's in.
And then no, I understand, but after that, like, there's not many before Lambos, are there?
Well, no, I mean, I think there'd be more. Like, it would be.
But you're saying more, not just like, not replace Lambos with a different prospect. You're saying add one more prospect.
I was gonna say like Stramel probably ends up in that move.
Wild fans would probably cheer aggressively and be wrong.
I have no idea what people would think anymore.
I want to see him be a bottom 6 center for the Wild. I want to see him succeed. He's such a good kid. It
also, I mean, like the prospects that they would be wanting back if they were to actually make this move. Like, a lot of that would also depend on their plans for Bowen Byram and Owen Power. They've got a couple other ones too.
I think
like,
Power's up in the air. I think they're keeping Byram, and I think they're keeping Dahlin. I think Cozens is movable. I think, even though the owner loves him, it sounds like Peterka's a guy that might have to be moved. Dude, if they made Thompson available, I'm all in. Like, I'll give up anything short of Kirill.
Mm-hmm.
No, Kirill and Faber. Sorry.
I don't know if there's actually a way to make this trade that, I mean,
I'll tell you how.
Rossi would be.
Yeah, no, Rossi's going the other way if you're bringing in Cozens.
That's the other thing too. It's a current roster player. They don't want any futures. Like, they do not want.
Right.
Futures.
They've made that very clear. But I think these are near enough futures that it could be argued, right? But again, it's not a fair trade. Like, Cozens is more valuable than everything being offered. I do wonder what it would take Rossi plus what to get Cozens. And at the end of the day, what is Rossi asking in a contract? If he wants $8 or $9 million, this becomes way more entertaining, right? Because I think Cozens is a better NHLer than Rossi. I love Marco Rossi. I think Cozens has more upside than Rossi does. And Rossi might be asking for more on an AAV than Dylan Cozens. So at that point, I'm not mad if that's the kind of move that Guerin makes if Rossi leaves. Now, if Rossi leaves and he brings back futures or some fucking like middle six bullshit player, like, no. But if Rossi plus something for Cozens is the move, I could be talked into that. All right, Matteo, what do we got next? Who?
Pass.
No.
Rossi and Bouillon for Dylan Larkin is a hard no for me.
Honestly, though, I feel like both sides probably don't want to do this, right? Is this like a weird one where it's like, it's not that it's an unfair trade, it's that I just don't want to do it?
I mean, if you're Detroit, you're probably sitting there like, I mean, the last player you want to give up is Larkin, but if you bring in another top six center and a potential number one D-man, like, yeah, I'm doing that.
Is Rossi viewed league-wide as a top six center?
It's a good question. I mean,
that's my real challenge to that statement. Like, I'm not saying you're wrong. It's just, is Rossi that guy from the perspective of other GMs? Our GM doesn't see him as a top six center. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine teams probably look at him as a 2. It's just so interesting because there's so few players who can successfully produce points, be a factor in all 3 zones, play center, being 5'9" and not the greatest skater in the world, and yet here he is.
No, I love him. I'm not arguing that. It's just
no, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, that's what it's like. That's why I wonder what GMs would think about him outside of Minnesota. But I mean,
I want Russo and Joe to take like a random poll of GMs that aren't Bill Guerin, saying, what do you think Marco Rossi is in 2 or 3 years? 1C, 2C, 3C, 4C, move to the wing. I want that answer.
Yeah. Either way, Bouillon is the part of this. It's like, no.
Yeah, no, agreed. But can we agree that, like, outside looking in, if we don't care about either of these teams, like, this is a reasonable trade?
Outside of what?
If we don't give a shit about either of these teams, if this trade went down, would you be like, what the fuck is happening? Or would you be like,
Bouillon is the piece that it's like, what are you doing?
Okay.
Like,
Larkin's the 1C that the Wild have never had. And it's funny because in Detroit, he's like, people are like, can he really be a 1C? But like in Minnesota, he's a fucking 1C. He is the best center we've ever had. Period.
Mm-hmm.
And the Wild have decent blue line depth. Do I want to, again, am I accepting this trade? No. But can I objectively step back and look at this being a reasonable trade? Sure. I just personally don't want it for where the Wild are at right now in their trajectory, right? If the Wild were a center away from truly contending, I'm in. But they're not. So I'm out.
Yeah, I mean, even then, you look at, like, I think the fact that both Rossi and Bouillon, obviously, like, they're both...
You forget the key component here, Z? His brother plays for Detroit. Maybe Zeev Bouillon is requesting this trade.
Yeah.
Maybe... Hang on. Let's go full circle here. Brock Faber forced LA to send him back home. What if Zeev's like, I followed my brother everywhere. I followed him to Shattuck. I followed him to Denver. I have to follow my brother to Detroit, and I don't want to play for Minnesota? Then do you make this trade?
Just demanding.
Hey.
I mean, again, for me, like, the other day, Bouillon is a potential, like, top...
2?
No. Top, as far as, like, prospects league-wide, he's probably in that top 10.
Well, you understand he's 2 for Wheeler.
Yeah. And then Rossi's your 23-year-old right now, first line center. And I really want to I'm going to knock on wood saying this. He is the one top of the lineup player that you've had the last 2 years who's remained completely healthy.
Yeah, right. Knock on all of the fucking wood.
Literally all of it.
Scary.
Which that's to me is like, that is legitimately something that should actually factor in.
And hey, Hoptics agrees with you. All about the durability for Rossi. And again, I love Buyam and Rossi. I do not want to make this trade. I'm just saying, in a weird world where, hey, we got Faber because he wanted to play here and he made that very clear. If Buyam's made it clear he wants to go to Detroit and this is the trade we make, I could be more mad. That's all.
Fair.
But whatever. All right, Matteo, what's next? Holy shit. This is a big one. We have Marco Rossi, Liam Ogren, 2027 first for Brady Tkachuk from the Ottawa Senators. I have opinions, but I'm going to let you go first, Z.
Why is 2027 keep going?
What do you mean 2027? We've seen the 2025 second the last like 3 trades.
No team who has to part ways with either their like a top 3 player of theirs or a top 3 prospect is like, yeah, 2027.
Hang on, though. In fairness, you look at the Wild and what they've done recently, like this year and next year, you can pretty much count on it not being a great pick. Things could go south by 2027. You might get lucky. Roll the dice. But yeah, it's probably a 2026 first if you're going to make this trade. So let's just audibly make that change. It's Rossi, Ogren in 2026 first for Brady Tkachuk. Who wins this trade?
Probably Minnesota.
If Brady Tkachuk wants to play here and is down to come here, I'm sorry. Again, I love Rossi and Ogren. I'm taking this trade every time. Brady Tkachuk is a fucking difference maker. I don't know why people talk down on him as much as they do. I hope that like what happened at Four Nations has changed that narrative a little bit, but like I would be so fucking happy if Brady Tkachuk was a Minnesota Wild player. It'd be great.
I mean, I think Ottawa looks at that and says no, obviously. Especially with
do you think it's far off though? If Brady's like saying he's like interested in leaving, how much do you have to add to make this a real trade? Because I agree with you. I think the Wild win this clean out. But if Brady's like, no, I don't want to be here.
Yeah. So that would be obviously the factor.
The only way he's being traded is if he says he doesn't want to be there. Why would they trade him?
By the way, Brady, 25 minutes ago, fought Tom Wilson. Just fun fact. Didn't lose. That's for sure.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
That's terrifying.
They both landed a couple big. I think Wilson may have landed 2 big ones, but Brady. I swear, Brady punches through people. It's nuts. When he's fighting, I'm like, oh my god.
I love though. After he fought Sam Bennett, he like asked Matthew. He's like, "Yo, like,
did it look good?
Shit, cool." And he's like, "Yeah," he hasn't said anything about it.
Yeah. Well, also like in the box, they're like, did it? He was like, did it look good? He's like, yeah. What about Mayo's? Unbelievable.
Yeah,
that's so funny to me.
The dap up.
Yeah.
I love that they went on the Kelsey podcast too.
Yeah,
together. Right. Like, okay, Kelsey's are moving forward, only having on Swifties and siblings.
Yeah. But with this trade specifically, I would imagine to make it more palatable, unless again Tkachuk saying no, I want to leave, and that becomes like public knowledge. Outside of that, like if you were just to try to straight up make this work, obviously Rossi's there, and they're gonna probably like demand one of your top prospects, so like a Buyam or a Wallstedt. Like when I look at the goaltenders that they have there now, like Linus Ullmark, obviously they've locked him up, and then behind them they've got some guys that can play. So do they look at the goaltender? Hurov, I don't know. But it feels like the prospect would have to not be Ogren or well, they definitely want. God. I don't know how you make that one work either, but it does start with Rossi, that 2026 first, since you don't have the 2025 first. And like probably 2026 first is going to be more valuable anyways. But they're going to want one of the top prospects for sure.
Yeah.
Just like thinking in my head, you know. They probably want another, like, potentially like a middle lineup roster player too. Who knows? But I mean, either way, like even if that was the 2026 first, this trade right here, like Ottawa's like, nope. But fun fact, that's where Rossi played junior. Did play 6-7s.
It's funny because him to Ottawa for that reason makes sense, and him to Buffalo to play with Jack Quinn also makes sense. So, beautiful jersey, though. I got to give credit. All right, Matteo, do we have one more here? I feel like maybe not. Nope, he's saying no because he threw up the Bill Guerin. So let's see the ones that have been thrown in. All right. Dregs tied the Wild to Barzal rumors. I can't even believe this in season, but my God. Z, I've been pretty vocal about this since there was any question of Barzal trade. I'm all in on anything that involves Barzal. Again, remove Kaprizov, remove Faber. If Barzal's coming here and he's we're not worried about his health, I am all fucking in. All in. You go.
I mean, again, Bouillon's also untouchable for me, and even for a guy like
Sure. Sorry, that's fair. I'm saying as far as roster players, if it meant Barzal coming back, I'm entertaining Boldy, for example.
Yeah.
But you're right. Bouillon is probably my only prospect untouchable. Is that fair?
Yeah. Probably.
Okay. But yes, I'm a big Matt Barzal fan for so many reasons. He'd be so fun.
I should pull up Matthew Barzal. Because he got hurt again, right? Yeah, he's 20 points and he only played 30 games this year. 460. What did he put up the last couple of years? Last year, 80 and 80, 51 and 58, 59, 73, 45 and 55. I mean, either way, it's a notch above what you have already. So, yeah, I mean, there's not a whole lot of players that are on that no-fly list if it's Barzal's coming in the other way for sure.
He's so goddamn good. And he's the guy that everyone says is a media darling who no one knows about because Lou has his rules.
Yeah.
Pretty much, right?
Great.
All right, next one up from Mr. The Raider 1. Ryan Hartman trade for Nick Foligno. Thoughts? I don't think that the Blackhawks entertain it, especially if it's a 1-for-1, but I don't hate it for the Wild. I think bringing both Folignos here would be fun.
I mean, it'd be fun to have the Folignos here. I don't know how even of a trade that is, though. I mean, I'd probably say no.
More so for if Guerin has given up on Hartman, right? If he's this guy's not going to learn, because it's been brought up all over socials. Even Russo's wondering, hey, is Ryan Hartman ever going to fucking learn? Who knows?
Right.
Is Hartman a better player? Yes. Are there intangibles that Nick Foligno brings? 100%. I don't hate the concept. I'd need to see the full trade and what it means, but I don't hate it.
Yeah, he signed one more.
Thoughts on Jordan Kyrou? Maybe Hartman, he'd probably say no because of Binnington, unless he's traded. Lambos, Haight, Chisholm. That's a lot of names thrown out. If you're trading all of that for Kyrou, it's a absolute hard no for me. I think Kyrou's a great player. I don't necessarily love the contract, unfortunately.
You don't?
Kyrou's contract. Isn't he making like $825?
Yeah, I love Kyrie. He's nasty.
I like him, but I don't know. I'm not going to pretend that I'm super locked in on the Blues, but his history tells me that he's very hot cold. Like when he's on, I love him. He's just not always on.
I don't know. I'd say the last 4 years, like I mean, 2021, 22 puts up 75 and 74,
that's
73 and 79, 67, 82.
But I'm not arguing that. I'm saying it's because he torches for half the season and sucks for half the season. And like, that's great, but I don't know. I feel like that's something that Bill Guerin's not going to entertain at the surface. But maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I mean, the return's a lot. That's a lot to give up, obviously. But
if all of that's going back, then I'm a hard no. But I don't know. I like Kyrou. I'd much rather bring in his counterpart at center, but that's never going to happen. So,
yep.
I don't know. I'd be willing to hear offers other than if you're really giving up every guy you listed, that's a problem. But if there's a different version of that trade, I'm interested. I'll listen. If we can make the dollars work.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, that's always funny. It's just like at this point when we like for a fucking stupid podcast, like, all right, I think at this point it's like, yeah, fuck the contract. Like, no, like with this point with Minnesota specifically, we can't we will ruin all of the fun of any potential trades if we factor in the contract bullshit.
Well, the contract bullshit.
No, I know. No, I know. I'm just saying, like.
All right, Matteo asks us, per Matteo, who out of the bottom six is most likely to get traded before Friday? No one?
Yeah, I mean.
Most likely? I'd say Freddie or Hartman, I guess. But that's, like, if I have to pick someone.
Yeah. I forget who I was talking to. But they had mentioned that they were having conversations with people around the league. They wonder about like Lauco, but who knows?
Don't you fucking dare.
I know.
We got to get him on fellowship first.
I know.
If they think they're going to be a playoff team, they're not trading Lauco.
Right. You're
not going to get anything back, and he's a guy that makes an impact in the playoffs. I don't know. That's my opinion. But any others, Matteo, that you want to throw in before we transition to all right. We're going to prospects. Shout out to our great friends, MNW Prospects, wherever you want to find them. On Twitter, that is MNW Prospects. On Facebook, I think their name is MNW Young Guns. I might have it backwards, but box. Go ahead. Make fun of me.
No, every time that we bring up,
I know.
like prospects, yeah. No, it's like almost word for it. It's like it's either this or I don't know. I can't. I'm on the same page. I don't know.
I know.
Every time too.
Actually, no. On Twitter, they go by MNW Young Guns, but it's at MNW Prospects, and I think on Facebook, then it must be MNW Prospects across the board. But shout out to them. They do such a good job of keeping up with like what happens week to week with all of the prospects. They'll let you know which ones are popping and which ones aren't. This week we have a couple of guys that warranted discussion. Z, if you have any that we're missing that you want to bring up, like by all means. But I believe the first one that we're going to talk about here is going to be Hunter Haight, who has been on quite the tear lately. If you give me just a second here to adjust our overlays to make this freaking work. Here we go. Hunter Haight.
There he is.
Talk about him.
Yeah, I mean, it's been talking about prospects in Iowa the last couple of years has been like quite the challenge just because the team's just been so like they're not like they also have their own injury problems. pair that with the fact that so many of those guys have had to get called up to Minnesota, even if they didn't end up playing, they end up missing a game or two in the A. And it's been a really weird transition of like when they use young players, when they don't. But Hunter Haight from start to finish, like even when he wasn't producing tons of points in Iowa this year, he has looked incredible. And I was so curious to see what the transition playing center in the OHL to the AHL is going to look like for him. And he's been great. Like, you know, he's a smaller center, light. So, you know, you're always worried about how it's going to look in the middle of the ice. But like in transition, like he's been awesome. He has not been afraid of any contact. And now he's on a real good heater, dude. I think he's got points in 8 of his last 10 games. He scored a second hat trick of the season 2 games ago, scored again last night. He's up to 18 goals now. And so 31 points in 51 games. He's just been solid. And again, like on an Iowa team that like there's only a couple guys who have looked pretty consistently good all year. He's been a standout, even when he's not producing points again. Like he's been a factor in all 3 zones. And the fact that he's looked this comfortable playing center has been great. And like, obviously, like we mentioned, like the last few games, he's shown a lot more willingness just to shoot the puck, and his confidence with the puck where he's like hanging on to it and making some great plays has been really impressive too. So he's just been one of the big positives in Iowa this season in a year where there hasn't been a whole lot. So it's been awesome. So I'm very happy for him. Like anyone that listened to Fellowship when Wheeler was on, the one thing he mentioned was like Hunter Haight has that upside. Like he has the skill. Everyone knows that he does. They've just been long waiting for him to actually show it. Like he hasn't done it consistently. Like we all remember, like he got drafted and it was like, hey, this upcoming OHL season, like he's the guy to look out for. Like he might like really pop off. And just the way it worked out with Saginaw is like they bring in a ton of other players and he's kind of like pigeonholed to the wing, third line center, but like still played well. But like it's been impressive just seeing how confident he is with the puck this year, how well he's adjusted to playing center in the AHL with a hard schedule on a team that doesn't produce a ton of points in general. So it's been awesome. So I'm very happy for him, especially the last like 10 games. So he's just been on a tear and like he's growing in confidence game after game. So it's been great.
We love that. Next up, we got to talk about Jesper Wallstedt. He's back. 4 games played.
Heating up.
92.37 save percentage. 3 wins. Should people stop hating? They should have never hated, but
yeah. He's healthy. He's playing consistently. Again, I really am curious to know like how the start of the year, how it was like the plan was for them to have all 3 up here. Like again, still didn't expect that to result in him being like to performing as bad as he did at the start of the year. And I mean, this is the first like stretch that he's played consistently really well. But some of the saves he made, look, which game was that? I think it was against Grand Rapids, maybe. I think he put up like 38 saves and some like ridiculous ones at that too. But now he looks like he's back in the zone. And again, when he's on his game, he's just like, it looks effortless, where it's like he's not the most athletic kid in the world, but he is a really smart goaltender. So again, like the reason he's so good is he's usually is already wherever the shot's going to be at. So he's made it look easy the last few games. And again, like Iowa's been playing relatively well recently. So either way, just happy that he's got some consistent play under his belt. He looks really good last 4 or 5 games. You know, now his record's closer to 5. I think he's 9-11 and something. And it's always tough too. Like once your save percentage of your goals against goes like low, it's crazy how much harder it is to get it back, dude. So I mean, like again, you look at the goals against and the save percentage, probably not great. You also look at the fucking Iowa Wild fucking record, also doesn't look that great. So
could be better.
But either way, nice to see him back looking like the Jesper Wallstedt that we've been used to. It's gonna be important.
for him to finish out the year this year because that contract starts next year. He's going to be in Minnesota.
Yeah, it's pretty set in stone. I also have to say, just watched the Wilson versus Tkachuk. I don't think Canada's sending Wilson anymore.
Couple of them landed.
Matteo listed him as Ryder, Ronald, Ritchie, which I love. Last 10, he's got 6 goals, 7 assists, +9. How fun is Ryder Ritchie?
He's so fun to watch.
How high is he ascended in your prospect pool rankings?
I still think he's pretty close to where he was at because you factor in. I had him. Oh God, where did I have him? Somewhere
in or out of the top 10.
I want to say I had him right around that 10 spot. And when you just look at until Wallstedt's, realistically, this would be the last year that Wallstedt's probably on that list in the first place. I've always had him up there. Bouillon, Yurashek, they bring in this year. Yurov's still ahead of I still have Ritchie, and again, this is year 1, so I still have him right around that 10. But you just see these the flashes of these upside, and a big part of this is just the fact that Medicine Hat has essentially assembled a ridiculous all-star team. They are so fucking fun to watch. They pretty much have the puck the whole game, and I don't know if you saw the assist. It was either last week, the Gavin McKenna assist.
Yeah.
He is unfucking believable. And they're doing this, they're putting up 4 goals at least per game, and they still haven't had Caden Lindstrom. It's unbelievable. They're so fun to watch.
No, they're going to be very fun down the stretch. But speaking of awesome assists, did you see the game-winning assist from Jimmy Clark this weekend?
Oh, yeah. I was so excited that he's last 2 weeks put up a couple more points. Playing, he's getting more minutes, asking him to produce offensively. And again, we saw how hot he started at the beginning of the year, and then injuries, the World Juniors, all that. They just had to shake up those lines. Probably asked to play a bit more of a possession-oriented game / defensive-oriented game than he offense. But it was last week too, or was it? Oh, fuck, I can't remember which game it was. But he had another nasty assist. But he's so fun. That's another gauge. It's the plays that he makes, this little plays that he makes. He's got sick hands, and again, we talk about when we used to talk about Caden Bankier a lot, it's pretty reliable player. Just throw him over the boards in whatever situation you need him in. We saw him when I watched him in person when they played Michigan State. That was pretty much his role. Was hey, go win this face off, or hey, go bail us out right now. Whatever extended offensive zone time for Michigan State. He was there breaking up plays, really good in transition. He's just another player, really good vision, very fun to watch, really good passer, as we saw in that fucking assist. But he's awesome. So I'm happy. Last couple weeks he put up some more points again. So I love it.
Let's talk Gophers real quick, because I'm very much convinced that this is exactly how Bob wanted it to work out. Straight up, didn't want the bye. And I think the bracket actually works out in their favor this way. They do not want to play Michigan or Penn State, whoever wins that matchup. They'll take Ohio State, who they kind of had their way with in the regular season. And Bob still gets a split share of the Big Ten championship for the regular season and gets his $40K bonus. It couldn't have worked out better. It's perfect. We're thrilled. So they have Notre Dame coming up this weekend. That's going to be interesting. I got to ask you, though, let's spin away from current Gophers. Everyone's talking right now about stud, great Gopher, Jackson Lacombe. Apparently, he's a very good hockey player.
He is anyone that can put up. I think it was it Jay Fresh that posted his card on Twitter? Anytime that with Jay, the way that whatever the graphics that Jay Fresh throws out there, if you're playing if you're a defenseman in Anaheim the last 6 years, anytime that one of those single stats is a blue card, that is impressive. And he's playing big minutes against the other team's best players. And like, he looks incredible. And like, I always thought that Jackson Lacomb's, like, his style should be able to like work pretty quickly as far as like at least holding his head above water in the NHL, even if he was in Anaheim. But like, he is just impressive. He's just been really, really, really good for them. And like, when you look at like his profile overall, I think that it's also a very important factor for Anaheim when you have a couple of other of those like top defensemen in your pool that are just like, maybe they're undersized or they're like big time point guys. Lacombe can give you pretty much everything, and he's a solid defender in his own right. So like, the fact that he is a top defenseman in Anaheim, but isn't just like, he doesn't need to be like producing offense for him to be valuable. Like, that's going to be something for Anaheim to really consider moving forward. Cause I mean, they have so fucking many legit D prospects and young D men. Like, they're going to have to be making decisions.
Are they not just like the Sabres where it's like,
it's the same exact idea, right?
So many redundancies, which is an okay thing if you're willing to trade them and you know how to pick which guy when they all look the same. But like, they're in a pretty good spot if they can make some savvy moves. But Lacombe should definitely be there for the long haul if they're smart.
Well, let me pull up, because the one thing with them, and they really got last year's draft right as far as some of the defensemen that they took, like, they have a lot of redundancies as far as like high profile, high upside, legit, and like quantity too. But they also, like, especially on D, you've got a young player like Lacombe now. They've got Noah Warren, the fucking kid from, oh my god, the
Mutants.
Oh my god,
Solberg.
Stian Solberg, he is legit. That was
he was really to the Wild. That was almost our defensive pick instead of Zito William.
Yeah. But I mean, it's crazy just looking at the guy like Minchikov, Zellweger, Lacombe, Tristan Luneau, Drew Helleson, Tyson Hines, Noah Warren, Dionisio, who is also nasty, Stian Solberg, like Terrence Smith, Ian Moore, Daryl Suchet. Like, the amount of legit prospects they have on the back end is incredible. But I mean, you've got a guy like Lacombe there now. He's played over 100 games at this point. He looks fucking awesome. It's impressive. But like, they do, like, that's the thing with them. They have top of the line like defensive prospects, but they also have like, it's a diverse crowd too. So like, they can afford to make some decisions here and like potentially even like if they wanted to like jumpstart, finally, not even jumpstart. It's been too long. It's not a jumpstart at this point. Fuck off. Call it. What's my name? You can't call it a jumpstart when it's been this long being this bad. But like, they could potentially bring back some players that could actually help them in the next couple of years.
Yeah.
Just given how diverse their pool of D-men is. Is this the year Gibson goes? Like, is it going to happen, dude?
No, because he's hurt and he's overpaid.
It's never going to It's never going to happen, dude.
Player Voracek. Happy the Wild had Juracek and Boehm available and ended up with a Juracek and Boehm. I'm not even 100% sure what it means, but Flyer Voracek, I love every bit of what you said, and I'm just thrilled that both of them are part of the Minnesota Wild. We love it. Maybe in that draft they could have taken Boehm or Juracek, and they took Boehm and got the other Juracek. I think I got it. I'm on. But shit, all right, we did it. Did the thing. Anything we missed, Z?
I don't think so.
Right, no. You are, Ken.
That should do it, I think. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that actually...
There we did it. Kitten mittens. You'll be
Get mittens.
Oh, Isha has assured me that tomorrow morning I'll get interviews that he promised me today. So that's good. Thanks, Isha. Everyone smash that like button. Per Isha.
Double check to make sure no trades have happened in the last 5 minutes.
I don't think any have. Has Ovechkin scored an Ovech trick? That'd be interesting.
Not breaking. Major news though.
With Thomas Academy. With you.
Ole Mata re-signed for 3.5 in Utah. I know everyone was really excited about that one.
Off the Utah bandwagon. They are idiots.
3 by 3.5.
Oh, that's gross. I don't like it. Even with the new caps, I'm out. I quit. Movie quote. I'm your Huckleberry.
I didn't know you had a kid. Is it still alive?
You're no Daisy at all. Why, Ike? Whatever do you mean?
No. Real quick, though. I just pulled up Twitter, the What's Happening page. The guy saw resigned, and I immediately, to the left of that was the tweet about re-signed, and I was like, this is kind of funny. On the left, there's the Utah tweet that they re-signed. On the right, What's Happening? Trending in the United States, resigned. We don't have to talk about that because it's bad. But, peace out. End it. Call it.
Cole, you got to go to Lupulin Brewing. If you go Wednesday, early afternoon or evening, I will be there. Love to meet up with you and grab a beer, but if not, go anytime this week before they sell out of it. You can get it from the Lupulin Tap Room in Big Lake, Minnesota. Basically Monticello for those who aren't familiar with Big Lake. Appreciate all of you tuning in. Signing off. Of course, he has a fucking turtle.
As always. Never fails.